When it's time to begin, it's on the review around with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's review around for Monday night, download a Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's review around for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Raw was here in Toronto. And how is it that Raw comes to town and me and Wai aren't even together here for this show? We broke up our covering duties this week because the WWE is doing back-to-back nights in Toronto. So I went to Raw Monday. Wai is going to go to SmackDown on Tuesday. And both of us will have the live and televised perspectives for you, the listener.
Yep. I mean, it's good. It's good to have two separate perspectives. Also, like when you and I watch together, we might tend to influence each other's opinions. So it's good. Maybe you love something. Maybe I hated something.
That happens a lot. And my favorite part of this was the most lack of intense work I had to do at an arena where I just had to take minimal notes because you offered to do the play-by-play, so to speak. So
yeah, I've seen John, like hunched over anytime we go to a WWE live TV taping. He's hunched over his little tiny notepad. He doesn't even have a notepad. He'll get sheets of white printer paper that'll fold up, and here he is.
I don't like relying on my phone. The battery dies. I hate typing.
Oh, you rely on your phone.
I hate it.
You rely on your phone to time the matches. That's why you can't use your phone.
I did none of that. I think I am not a fun person to go watch a show with because I'm busy taking notes and looking like a total moron. No. But tonight I was just the life of the party with Jason.
So you were just a fan. Tell me about the trek into the arena, because those are always interesting.
It wasn't much of a trek. Actually, I was on the subway and ran into a listener of ours named Danny, who we had actually done a politics episode on years ago over the pit bull ban, and he had a pit bull.
Bowser, I remember the dog's name.
Yes. He asked how you were doing. I gave an update, and we hung out for a bit because we were going in the same direction. And he had recently just gone and flown to Long Beach for the New Japan shows. So he was telling me about that. And, heading to Raw. So I headed in. I met up with our friends Jordan Breen and Mike Bond ahead of time we grabbed some food.
Did they go too?
They were in the media section, and they ended up being seated right next to me and Agnew.
Oh, perfect.
So
maybe we'll hear about it on the Sure Dog Roundtable.
Yes, I asked if they were doing it after the bell, but I don't think they are. And, met up with Agnew, went in. It was the best part. This was so awesome. So, Wai, when you go to these shows, I mean, just based on the amount of replica titles, you would assume the Canadian economy is through the roof. Like, we're doing great based on this disposable income that is there for some wrestling fans.
It's like 80 cents now. We're bouncing back a little bit.
Oh, we're coming back. It's these belts, it is unbelievable. This is the trend. When I first saw a replica title belt, like a real one, I just thought, like, this will never catch on. I've never been more wrong.
Really? Because, I
can't imagine spending $200 on one of these things.
Yeah, okay. But, is there nothing that you're a fan of that you would spend that much money on? What do you love?
It's the act, though, of, wearing it, and...
You don't necessarily... who doesn't want to parade with the belt in the privacy of their own home? You never done that as a kid?
Unless the Air Canada Centre was anyone's private home. This was a very public space.
Most people don't give it.
Well, listen, it's cool. It's cool if that's what you want to do. But to me, the combination of the price and the lack of realistic use you're going to get out of this thing, I never thought those things would be such a cornerstone of fandom that they clearly are.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot less. I don't think there's really been any shame attached to it, but I think now even.
Until my story. This was
okay. Let's hear it.
And Agnew is all to thank for this because I wouldn't have realized what was happening right in front of me. So we're in the lineup and we have to go through the metal detectors. And this guy's got one of those old plastic titles on it. I think it did have metal on it because he had to go through the metal detector, and they're telling him to take the belt off his shoulder. And he has to explain to them, I can't. And this guy
why
literally
what do you mean?
could
Why
not
can't?
drop the title because Wai, he's got the belt around his shoulder, and as someone that has never carried a title around all day, you don't realize how tiring that could be. So this guy pinned the title to the back of his shirt so his arms could be free, but his title could still be draped across his shoulder. But when he had to go through the metal detector, he had to explain, I cannot take this title off. It's pinned to me. I died because Agnew is explaining what had happened as we get in, and I am just at a loss for words that this was a problem that this man needed a solution for. And this was the solution, to pin this title to the back of his shirt. It was unbelievable. It might have been the best part of Raw for me.
What did this guy look like?
Older. Middle-aged. I didn't get a great profile on him. I was not as... I was paying much more attention to him after the fact rather than in the moment because I didn't fathom what I was truly in awe of.
Well, I wish I was there.
Oh,
and I hope this man might not be listening, but if he is, please, I'd love to know who you are.
If he is, God bless you. What a trend you may have started for those out there that are tired of their arms are just exhausted after these 3+ hour Raws of holding their title belts up.
I would say though this is less a indicator of just like a really big wrestling fan or like a really hardcore wrestling fan, and just more of an indicator of like a really lazy person.
I just love the idea that of all items that you had to come up with a way to fasten it to yourself, it was a belt.
Yeah, what else would it be?
Well, I'm just saying, like, there's an easy way to fasten a belt around.
Oh, okay. But this was one of those plastic ones, right?
Yeah, so maybe it didn't fit all the way around. It wasn't one of those big, giant replicas. Anyway, sorry I didn't take a photo for you, Wai.
Nah, I'd love to be a security guard at a wrestling event.
Yes. So, quickly before we get into Raw, we did enter just as main event was underway. And this featured Apollo Crews defeating Curt Hawkins. But then, the highlight of main event, and really one of the bigger... this guy left a bigger impression on me than I assumed. We had the lights dim, and Elias, just Elias, was in the middle of the ring. And he started playing his guitar, and he customized it towards Canada, singing, "Oh, Canada, what a horrible, wretched place." This guy got so much heat, Wai. I would say Roman Reigns got more, but Elias was top 3, maybe top 2 for the amount of just pure hatred that this man received. This was my favorite Elias moment ever.
Wow.
And I can't believe this wasn't on Raw because he got unbelievable heat and it was wasted on main event.
Maybe it's something you have to be there live to really appreciate.
Certainly. But I just thought this was a pretty strong crowd throughout the night, and it definitely worked for Elias. Unfortunately, then he had the match with Kalisto. And, I mean, even in his song, he was saying how the fans here in Canada should take up after Kalisto and hide their faces under masks. I mean, it was a clever one. The match was nothing much to speak of. And there was this child behind me who was so excited and was explaining to their friend that Kalisto's finisher is so sick. And then moments later, Kalisto took the drift away, and these poor kids did not get to see Kalisto and his finisher, and Elias got the victory. Aww. Let me tell you, it did not get heat for this heel win. But nonetheless, Elias was incredible on this show. His song was great. The match was not much.
Okay. Anything else notable?
That is it. That was all from main event. And now you can take us into Raw.
All right. So we get into Raw. Raw starts off, and we start off with Miz TV. Miz says he's tired of being cheap-shotted on the show. He's holding Raw hostage until Jason Jordan comes out. But instead, it's Kurt. He says his son can't come out tonight because Jason has a match against Curtis Axel. So instead, he's booked Brock Lesnar to be a guest on Miz TV. Big ovation for him. What was it like live?
It was insane. He got perhaps the biggest reaction of the night coming out. This place was just unglued for this segment. They were even really hot just for the Miztourage portion of the segment before Brock came out. And
did you purchase a blue Suplex City shirt?
I did not. No. Do you know what they were selling though? And they're starting to sell these in different cities. They were selling Toronto 316 shirts.
Oh, okay. I've seen those. And that kind of, didn't that lead to some of the speculation about Austin coming back in one of those cities?
Right, when they were doing them in LA. So it looks like they're starting to do these. I mean, it's one thing to applaud Brock, who is able to go to every new city and sell new shirts. It's another level when you're Steve Austin, who's getting royalty checks without even lifting a finger and leaving his house, as he is presumably doing now with these line of 316 shirts.
Good for him. So Miz is out here, cuts a promo on Paul specifically, does actually a pretty good impression of him, lists off all the competitors in the four-way. Roman gets booed. Joe was mentioned last and got the biggest reaction. He says when Brock loses at SummerSlam to one of those men, he's going to take his ball and go home, and he says good riddance to bad rubbish. So Paul Heyman cuts a total babyface promo, complete with pauses for the audience to join him, and he says, not to be too personal, but do you and your wife ever role play? Because I'm all about the role play. And he proceeds to name Miz, Axel, and Alice as Reigns, Strowman, and Joe, and he unleashes Brock onto all three of them. Suplexes all around, F5s all around, lays everybody out. How was the segment?
I was waiting for Miz to quickly chirp back and tell Heyman, you clearly did not watch SmackDown going into WrestleMania because role-playing was the central focus of our feud with John Cena and Nikki Bella.
Wow.
Also, when Miz was listing off the participants in the Fatal 4-Way, the audience went nuts for Samoa Joe's name. I mean, he was super over here.
And, I mean, I think they clearly anticipated that reaction for this guy. And for Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, I'd say.
Yeah, this was a really, really strong start to Raw. There was also a fan sign way that said, Rob Ford was the first mayor of Suplex City.
All right. Does it really work? Yeah, it's okay.
Well, he was a former mayor. Suplex City is a fictional town. Mm-hmm. Fictitious.
Okay. Well, I don't expect that one on a shirt anytime soon.
Did the crowd really come through in this segment? Or
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they were super hot for this segment live.
Especially for the intensity when Brock started to actually do physicality.
Yes.
I think the crowd overall in the show, they clearly wanted to cheer what they wanted to cheer, but when they did want to cheer, they were very loud, and I thought it came across. Up next, we have our first match, Seth Rollins versus Sheamus. It's a rematch from last week when Seth Rollins defeated Sheamus. Rollins starts off very fast, charges at Sheamus on the floor. Sheamus is on the corner, and he flips himself up using his arm strength. Rollins catches him with a running top rope Frankensteiner for 2. Seth goes up again. Cesaro distracts him from the apron this time, so Seth's dive is interrupted. This allows Sheamus to schoolboy Rollins for the win to even the series. In post-match, Rollins suicide dives Cesaro and Sheamus. How was that live?
The suicide dive?
Yeah.
The entire arena looked at me and said, these are way overdone when Rollins hit this.
Come on.
But they were into the Frankensteiner, and it was noted the Kawada kicks from Rollins.
And Rollins gets double-teamed and beaten down. The entire crowd, including John Pollock, is chanting, "We want Ambrose."
Listen, a lot of people were chanting it. I mean, they're really into this storyline of the mini reunion.
That is right. Dean this time does not show up, however, and Sheamus and Cesaro continue to double team, delivers a double team white noise to Rollins to lay him out, and the segment ends.
I also was typing so fast that instead of writing Cesaro, I just wrote Caesar here.
I'm sure he gets that a lot.
Yeah, it's amazing that you get a whole new name by leaving the O out, which I've never noticed with Cesaro.
Any
This is the insight I have, Way.
No other thoughts on this match, I guess? How was it live?
It was fine. This was a real come down from the opening segment with Brock and all the physicality you did with him, that I think this was... I think that immediately they went to a commercial break. It seemed fairly early, and the audience is pretty in tuned to these commercial spots live. Like, you know what the setups are now for commercial breaks and kind of when the come down is in the match. So I feel this was them kind of settling in and looking down at their watch, seeing 8:20 and realizing we're in for a 3-hour show. And that's when these Raw shows can become a little tiresome, is if you start off hot, it's the segment afterwards, and I think there was a little bit of reservation here for this match. But they did get into the Ambrose stuff post-match. I mean, that seemed to be what they were most invested in.
Backstage, Rollins sees Dean Ambrose backstage, and Dean is upset at Rollins for getting double-teamed again and making him look like a jerk for not coming out. Rollins says, "It's been 3 years. What do I have to do to make you forgive me?" Dean says, "I don't know if you're the same guy or not, but I don't want to stick around to find out." He says their teaming up was a one-time thing put together by Kurt Angle, and he has a match with Cesaro tonight, and he's going to do it alone. Jason Jordan is out. Curtis Axel is still injured from the back from Brock's attack, so Kurt Angle goes up to some random guy sitting backstage and tells him to go out wrestle tonight. So we get Jason Jordan versus Jean-Pierre Goulet.
This is local wrestler Tomer Shalom, who's originally from Israel and also known as the Superstar of David.
Very nice. The crowd chants, "Let's go, Jobber," and Jason Jordan repeatedly attempts to throw him around. I can't say he looks all that great doing it. Got some pretty good suplexes at the end, though. Crowd is actually all for Goulet. Totally booing Jordan. I don't know how it came across live to you.
See, I was in a section, especially like the media area, where a lot of people recognized who it was. So there were a lot of "Let's go Tomer" chants. So it seemed to be more positive for him there. I didn't sense there were definitely boos for Jason Jordan, but not overwhelming where I was.
Well, this finish totally felt like they were very loud for Goulet and anti-Jordan, because Goulet gets some offense, Jordan gets mad, he tosses Goulet around, hits his suplex neckbreaker finish, and the crowd, at least the way it came across to me on TV, booed this. I almost got the sense that they were trying to build him up, expecting this reaction. Why else would you have Jason Jordan defeat a local guy?
Yeah, and also it really didn't feel like there was that big of a push for Miz and Jordan on this show, which makes me think maybe that... Do you think that is happening at SummerSlam or not?
Miz and Jordan?
Yes.
I don't think so. I got no sense of that whatsoever.
Like, there was nothing...
Actually, no, wait, but that's not true. Miz was calling out Jordan at the beginning of his Miz TV segment. Yeah,
it was just... To me, there wasn't a whole... I mean, that was... You're right. He did mention him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You have 1 week to set this up and make it official, and it didn't seem like this was... it didn't feel like a direction they were pushing all that hard here to do a SummerSlam match between these two.
Yeah. I mean, you also saw The Miz pretty much laid out by Brock Lesnar in the opening segment too, so I don't know how much an audience member really cares to see Jason Jordan do that to Miz after Brock Lesnar did it so well before. But it's really interesting trying to see what they're doing with Jason Jordan, because I just don't really get the sense that they're trying to push him as a straight up babyface, If they are, it's totally not working. We get a tease of Bayley coming out to address her injury that was announced on social media this past week. And I don't know if you caught this live, John.
I did.
Ashley Six, another
on
local
his
wrestler,
phone,
playing on his phone on the background.
Yes.
So plenty of representation from the indie scene here. Bayley
Ashley Six in the 6.
Yes. Oh my God. Wow. I wonder I wonder if he's happy at all about that, about Drake calling it the 6.
I don't know. It's a coveted number in this city.
Bayley comes out, and Charlie Caruso is with her in the ring. They replayed the spot from last week's match with Nia, where she injured her shoulder, and they clearly attribute the injury to Nia Jax. Bayley says she hasn't even watched the footage back because it would make her feel really bad. She said she knew she was injured in the match, but knew she had to finish it in order to prove how tough she was. Crowd was kind of noisy here, waving at the camera, basically not buying into Bayley's promo. Bayley says what got her through her, past week were her fans who contacted her, and Bayley specifically pointed out all the fans pointed out fans that were booing her. And of course, this makes the crowd boo even louder. They were very loud here. So Phillips and Vince make sure to mention that we're in Bizarro World in Toronto. And John, this might have been the most vocal negative reaction to Bayley I might have ever heard on TV.
Wow. It didn't come across like there were definitely some boos for her, but it was more like the audience just didn't seem to be all that much into the promo. And I mean, I can't imagine any of the agents looking at this segment with Bayley's character in front of a Toronto audience and not running the risk that it could be a negative reception that Bayley character gets. So I didn't think she was vociferously booed or anything like that. It just seemed to be more or less, I think they weren't all that into the promo, and that's how it seemed to me in my section.
They seemed rather indifferent to it until Bayley herself brought up the boos, and that actually made the crowd boo a lot louder. So I wonder if she was meant to do that, or if it was just maybe something that she did, maybe she shouldn't have brought up. Anyway, Bayley says her pick to win tonight is Sasha Banks, and Sasha comes out for her match. It's Sasha versus Alicia versus Emma, the first of two triple threat women's matches where the winners will meet each other next week to determine the number one contendership at SummerSlam. So Alexa Bliss comes out on commentary, and in the match, Emma delivers a big wheelbarrow suplex onto Sasha from the floor to the ring apron. It takes Sasha out for a big chunk of the match. And then there's an actual "Let's Go Emma" chant that was audible on TV. And I felt, at least to me, John, you tell me if you felt different, but at this point, it felt like the favorite in this match, for, at least with this crowd, was Emma. Sasha runs in with a big shining wizard. Emma looked to be bleeding a little from the mouth after this. Double knees to Fox in the corner. Emma pulls Sasha up for the cover and then pins Fox herself. The ref, Emma covers Fox. The ref counts to 2.5. And then this crowd booed because it definitely looked like Fox was a little late with the kick out. And they start chanting, "This ref sucks." So Fox's scissor kick is then countered into a Banks statement from Sasha. Emma runs in to break it up with the cradle on Banks. Banks reverses that into a Banks statement onto Emma for the win.
Yeah, of all the women on this show, the most over one was Alexa Bliss. I mean, this crowd, especially the first time she came out to do commentary, they reacted huge to Alexa. But in the actual match, there was a lot of cheering for Emma. And that near fall spot, I mean, I thought Alicia, she kicked out in time. I thought it was just a really good near fall spot. People totally bought that, especially in this kind of a structured match where I feel everyone thought it was a foregone conclusion that Sasha and Nia are winning these matches, that it became, I thought it was a credit that they actually had a false finish that people bought into with Emma, who they definitely were into.
I mean, I got the sense that this crowd just wanted to see, just wanted some disruption of the expectation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think that's something I think Toronto specifically is kind of known to do is just they wanted to cheer for the person that they knew had no chance of winning. And if it did happen, even on a unintentional fuck up, I think they would have been really happy. But I don't know. Do you expect anything to come out of this for Emma?
Not particularly, no.
Up next, Renee is in the back with Braun Strowman, and she asks him how important this match is. And Braun cuts a very Braun Strowman promo. He stares into the distance, and then just kind of stream of consciousness just talks about how much he loves beating up Roman Reigns. Says when he's around, the big dog is nothing but a puppy. Says his yard is his playground. He's broken Reigns' body, and tonight he's going to break his spirit. And tonight he'll be the only monster standing. How did you like this Braun Strowman promo?
It was, good promo from Braun. He cut a really good one, actually, after the show went off the air for the live crowd, which I don't believe that aired. It was fine. I like Braun's promo style. I think it does work for him. I don't think it's this big separation of the character with his promos. And he was another guy that, the audience was really into throughout the night.
I think they're trying to discover Braun's voice. I think, he's really just he comes across like he's very clearly reading things right now, memorizing things, but I would say that's kind of fine, He's relatively new, and I think it'll take time before I think they feel confident enough in letting this guy maybe come across a bit more improvisationally. But I think he's doing well enough with what he's been given so far. Up next,
I agree. It doesn't feel like the promos to me that are just this big scripted promo that a lot of people, it feels so painful. I don't have that same sense with Braun.
We got Enzo coming out next. Plenty of stories out from this guy about his, I guess, reputation behind the scenes after that Bring It to the Table episode. And do you have any comments on any of those, John?
There's a lot of stories out there. Certainly, I think that it definitely gives credence to the idea that he is probably does have a lot of heat on himself at the moment. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I myself can't, speak to some of these stories, how true they are, and also the fact that it is. Sometimes I feel it just becomes a thing where a guy rubs people the wrong way, and then everything becomes an issue with that person, no matter what they do, and it's part of any locker room, or in this one, a wrestling locker room. That if that's the position he's in, I think it's unfortunate because I think he's a very talented guy. That I hope it's not just like backstage bullshit that ends up derailing this guy's momentum on the show as a result of it.
Did you get a sense that the crowd was aware of a lot of this stuff, and do you think it played a part in any of his reaction at the show?
No, but I feel that there's a big target on him at the moment, that he needs to come out and justify his positioning and the spots he's getting on television. That I'm sure there's that pressure on his shoulders at the moment, that when he's given a microphone, he's got to really hit it out of the park with his promos, because that's his bread and butter. And I'm sure there's that pressure to go out and deliver when you may have some critics.
Well, he tried tonight. And he introduces the Big Show, and he certainly tried to win this Toronto crowd over. And how do you do that if you're a millennial and if you're cutting a promo in Toronto? By using Drake references. OVO Fest was just down the street tonight. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, yeah. I was in the traffic on my way here going through it.
I wonder if Enzo ended up showing up there. Maybe not, for his sake. He says, when the Big Show holds him up in the air, his head is in the clouds, like the cover of a Drake album. He says he feels like he's sitting atop the CN Tower, like the cover of a Drake album. You could tell me about the live reaction to this, John, but on TV, it came across like this crowd either didn't know the references or simply didn't care.
The views reference, no one referred to, or no one reacted to. And
they reacted to the mention of the CN Tower, but that was it.
I didn't even sense it was the CN Tower they really got into. It wasn't until he just flat out said the name Drake that people reacted.
It just came across like he was trying way too hard. He references another rap lyric that I didn't even know, and it too flew over this crowd's head. I didn't think this was some of Enzo's better work. I thought it was some of his poorer work.
He needs to reference rebooted shows from 1990.
Movies, you mean? Oh, rebooted shows, yes. Twin Peaks, of which I'm aware now. One of the most popular shows in all of American history.
At one time.
I guess.
They did get some publicity for these for the skit last week. I will maintain, though, the last episode of Twin Peaks, I looked this up, did 248,000 viewers. So I will fully concede. A very popular show, but I don't think anyone was arguing that a long time ago. I
think part of maybe also why it got all that attention was because how I think dedicated of a parody it was, which is very unusual for a professional wrestling show. You know what I mean?
I think the publicity they got was from super fans of Twin Peaks that I think recognized that these were probably fans that were constructing this segment, and they did a great job with it. So well played on their part, the fact that actually did get some traction amongst Twin Peaks viewers. So I wonder how much
so it tells me they're going to
continue with parodies.
Oh, they're going. I mean, they have been, but I would expect them to go even harder now with all the inside references that you and I might not understand at all.
Are we going to have to start watching Twin Peaks?
No, I don't think I'll be doing that. So Gallows and Anderson interrupt, and this week they're heels. He said,
yeah.
They say that Enzo and Show haven't accomplished anything, and says they aren't good brothers. Calls them nerds. Enzo says he didn't hear a word they said because he was too distracted thinking about how much Gallows and Anderson looked like Dr. Evil and Mini-Me.
Ugh.
But I'll say, even in 2017, to this Toronto Raw audience, Mike Myers was a more popular Torontonian than Drake.
Yeah, I don't know. The Dr. Evil and Mini-Me, that to me is you're really desperate at that point when you're pulling out that reference from 1999, which to me, along with Twin Peaks, I mean, come on.
So a match starts. Dr. Evil and Mini-Me versus Big Show and Enzo. Booker T says Enzo has talked himself into another situation he can't get out of. And he says he only talks big when he's protected by larger men. Cole makes brief mention of Chad Dawson's biceps injury. He says he'll likely need surgery, and that was kind of it for the Revival on this show. Gallows and Anderson dominate Enzo here, keeping him from the tag. Big Cass comes out. Crowd boos him. Big Show is taken out with the help of the Big Cass distraction. Big running drop kick to Enzo, and Gallows and Anderson get the win. Post-match, Cass attacks Enzo on the floor. Enzo rushes with the suicide dive, but Cass gets right back up, tosses Enzo into the barricade, starts chasing Enzo around the ring, but this time, Big Show surprises him with a knockout punch, and Cass is laid out this week.
Yeah, so in the promo, Big Show was saying that Big Cass's chin is soft, and then knocked him out again after the match, and you had Cass stumbling over ringside. So I guess that's kind of what they're pushing right now, is that one punch will put Big Cass out. And the audience really would, I mean, not to say Big Show was the most over guy on the show, but very popular. And the post-match attack worked, I thought, for this crowd.
Finn Balor comes out next, and he says, Toronto, this is Balor Club. We get a small too sweet chant. He says Bray loves to talk in tongues and riddles, and
correct.
And Bray gives him the creeps. He says Bray cares less about winning and losing and more about having people fear him. But Balor has learned that when fear comes knocking, you have to stand up and kick it in the face. And he says the next time Bray comes at Finn, he better not miss. Whether it's SummerSlam or tonight, whatever Bray starts, he'll finish. Bray teleports to the ring, but Balor is ready for the sneak attack. He's sitting on the top rope. They get some physicality in. Balor gets the better of Bray with a sling blade, sets up a running drop kick in the corner, but Bray, lights go out, teleports from the ring to the Titantron, and Bray cuts a promo that I'm sure John was just shaking his head at in the dark here. When Balor flies, this crowd flies with him. And Bray is going to knock him down from the air or some shit. 2 weeks left, John, in this. I'm not sensing that the heat for this program is where it should be.
No, I wasn't a big fan of this segment and Bray talking. However, Jason Agnew had a really great idea for next week if for your go-home angle between these two, where it's Bray Wyatt that comes out for a promo next week, and the lights go out, Finn Balor is in the ring to look him in the eyes, and then, to mirror this segment, the lights go out, it's Finn Balor on the screen, and he turns his head up, and he's got the demon paint on.
I like that.
And that's your
nice.
final segment next week to promise that the demon character is coming back for the first time since last year's SummerSlam.
But you know what, though? They really haven't made any mention about the demon at all. Like, they haven't built up that aspect of this whole thing at all. It's just been one guy attacks another guy, and then the next week a guy thwarts his attack. No real kind of insight into, like, the explanation of why you would need the demon for Bray Wyatt.
They've done a poor job in making there be a reason that Finn Balor has to go to this extreme place for this demon character, which I think is what that character should be reserved for. I mean, I don't really know why this match is happening. Bray interfered in a match with Elias Sampson with Finn, and it's just been, that has been the evil and the fear that he has to kick in the face. So I'm not a fan of this being like a crutch using this demon character, but I feel this match needs something. And demon character is it maybe at least something that the audience will be hot for in the match. I hope this is not like a 15-minute match at SummerSlam, because I think you run the risk of this dying live, even with Finn involved. It's a very cold program that needs a shot in the arm.
But this demon thing, we still don't know if there's, like, they really have not distinguished it at all from how Finn normally wrestles. You know what I mean? There's no real...
Well, I think he's only used it once, hasn't he?
Yes, but I would say, like, in either in NXT or at SummerSlam, but even in the build up to this, there's no... It's just like, you've attacked me so many times, I'm going to look really cool to really intimidate you in our match. There's no real distinguishing characteristics of the demon in how he wrestles. You know, it's not like...
Can the match not maybe achieve that, in that Finn beats him in 2 minutes as his demon character?
You know what? That would be really interesting. But he would have to physically look really dominating in its style that's different from how Finn Balor currently wrestles without the paint in order to realize that. I also don't think they'll do that with Bray Wyatt. But I feel like they have not done anything to explain what this demon is, how it's different from Finn Balor. And I'm a little disappointed, because I thought a Bray Wyatt-Finn Balor feud would have at least done that. Up next, Total Belazad. I don't know if you got this, John.
Oh, I didn't.
I
wasn't paying attention if it aired on the screen.
Total Bellas returns September 6th. I'm quite looking forward to it. Cesaro takes on Dean Ambrose. Graves asks if Cesaro tripped on his way out. I don't know if you noticed, John. So the music plays, and then, like, before the lights come on, Cesaro runs out of the ring. So Graves thinks Cesaro tripped, and so he calls him out on it. But then he quickly corrects himself, says, oh, Cesaro just ran out really quickly. So the commentary...
I have more to add to this.
Okay, really? Please.
So apparently what happened was they came out and only one of them had a tag title belt. So Cesaro went to the production hand and whispered something to him. It might have been the referee. And then the referee communicated it, and this production guy sprints to the back. And then he brings the second tag title belt back to ringside. I don't know what happened here, but they only came out with one tag title belt, I believe.
Okay. Well, very fascinating. Graves basically had to correct himself and said, "Oh, my apologies. Cesaro didn't trip." But then blames it on Cesaro running out too quickly before his James Bond spotlight came on, and then chalks it up to well, Cesaro is so good he can have at least one fumble. But my thinking is, why call even any of this out, whether or not the guy was tripping or not? I mean, it to me, there were definitely times, especially in this match, where I thought the commentary was really loose here. And Booker in particular, I thought was all over the place. And you had Cole and Graves just go all over on him. And I'm sure they were simply echoing what Vince's reactions were on their headsets. But Booker was trying to make a point about Cesaro wanting to be a champion like Dean. He did it in a typical Booker T kind of rambling fashion. And then Graves was just not shy at all about calling him out on how little sense he was making. Booker again he's also called out on having hypocritical opinions about Dean Ambrose in this versus what he was thinking of Dean in the Seth Sheamus match. So I don't know what it was, but I thought a little sloppy and loose on commentary between the three of them, a little more than usual, at least in this match. So this was a pretty lengthy match, Cesaro and Dean Ambrose, and it got pretty physical. Cesaro is standing on the top platform of the LED ring post, and he teases a superplex towards the floor. But Dean lifts him first. They superplex into the ring. Cesaro is targeting Ambrose's back, and Cesaro attempts the sharpshooter. Ambrose fights out, and of course this crowd boos. Sheamus distracts again, and then this time Cesaro locks on the sharpshooter. Big reaction to that. The finish mirrors the Seth Sheamus match, where Sheamus tries to distract as Dean dives off the top rope, but this time Dean is able to counter, and he schoolboys Cesaro for the victory.
And then we had the post-match attack. This match, it felt it went really long. The superplex spot was really impressive to see Cesaro's balance on the top there. That was notable, I felt.
Post-match.
I just think that this match, it was worked fine, but I think everyone knew where this was going with the post-match, that there was definitely some dragging in this match.
Post-match, Cesaro and Sheamus double-team Dean. And this time, Rollins immediately comes out for the save. No hesitation. They pause in the ring. The announcers lay back, so it's silent. And this crowd goes nuts. They really want to see these two fist each other. So Dean puts his fist out first. Seth looks at it. Crowd is very loud. They're just milking this reaction. This time, Seth walks away. So Dean's fist is left out in the ring.
This was beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
I really enjoyed this. I like the fact that they are making you still wait for this, for either side to be on the same page as the other. I think they've really, instead of just boom, throwing them back together for no rhyme or reason, they've really emphasized what that turn in 2014 meant. And I think it'll be a big reaction when they finally do the fist bump next week and set up the tag title thing. What I thought was going to happen here, because of the fact that as Mike Bond was furiously following this production guy in the sprint to the back to outline this 2 tag title situation, I was like, why is it so important these 2 tag title belts are out? I felt that they would fight off Cesaro and Sheamus, and the 2 titles would be left in the ring, and each would pick one up, and that would signal the tag title match being official for SummerSlam. So that was not the case. Instead, we just had Cesaro and Sheamus leave, and they held up the titles together for the glory shot going up the ramp. But I continue to enjoy this Rollins and Ambrose tease going into SummerSlam. I think this SummerSlam card, there are sometimes in big shows for WWE where they'll put together some big matches and the matches kind of sell themselves. And then there's others where they're heavily reliant on the story aspect to them. And I think that's what SummerSlam has here. And I think this is one of the better stories that they have teased going into SummerSlam with Ambrose and Rollins.
I agree. I think this has been built up pretty well, and Toronto was really eating this whole thing up. So we'll see what happens. What do you think happens beyond SummerSlam for these two? Do you think Roman ever gets involved?
I don't think he will. I think he's going to be unto himself for the immediate future. I think the Shield thing is obviously something you can go to. I know the idea was thrown out Sunday on the Law, the idea of those three coming out with the Universal and tag titles and having an alliance together again. I just don't see that direction for these three, because I still believe that this Rollins thing will ultimately end with Ambrose turning on Rollins at the end of all of this. Whether they get a quick run with the tag titles, I don't think that's the worst idea to prolong this, or it's simply Dean is totally stringing Rollins along throughout all of this for the ultimate revenge, which I don't mind at all, because I like heel turns where there's justification. You can totally understand why Ambrose would go to these lengths to screw this guy because of what he did to him originally.
Titus Worldwide is backstage, and they're celebrating in anticipation of Tozawa beating Neville for the Cruiserweight title at SummerSlam, and they say that Tozawa's shoulder is now good as new. Neville walks...
Maybe Bayley can get his Titus's rehab facility.
It's a hyperbaric chamber, he explains.
Oh, that's what Bayley needs to do. Play with those red blood cells.
So Neville walks in. He says that he saw Tozawa crush Neville's Cruiserweight title dreams at 205 Live last week, and says that tonight he's taking a risk by facing Daivari again, because this time Daivari has nothing left to lose. Really enjoyed Neville's slow, menacing delivery here backstage. And
this all started, by the way, with a recap of last week's 205 Live, which kind of set the table for a Cruiserweight segment coming up next. And I don't know if I just chose a bad time to look at the exits, but there were so many people leaving for the concessions as this began.
Well, Ariya Daivari takes on Akira Tozawa next, and Titus is on commentary. Graves asked specifically how Tozawa healed his shoulder so quickly, because he looked pretty injured as of Tuesday, and Titus had to explain that he invested in the hyperbaric chamber. So that
he's on steroids, Corey.
Tozawa tries very hard to get this crowd to with him, but didn't have much luck here. Daivari continues to focus on Tozawa's shoulder, but Tozawa doesn't show any effects of it being injured at all. And suicide dives. How was this one live?
It was pretty impressive, Way. I'm not going to lie. There were a lot of oohs as he hit the suicide dive, because it was a pretty impactful one.
So Tozawa hits his diving senton for the win. What was this match like live?
I thought the match was average. The only time the crowd really got into it was when Tozawa was really trying to rally them with his chant. They got into that somewhat. If you take that chant away, or take Akira Tozawa for that matter out of the equation, this crowd would have been sitting on their hands for this segment.
Well, I thought I was going to miss 205 Live this week, but I'm actually going to be in attendance, so
that's right.
I'll be
pulling you back in, Way.
I'll be watching it, and I will give you my live reaction to a full edition of 205 Live tomorrow.
Will 205 Live be alive in Toronto?
205 Leave, as they call it.
205 Leave.
Okay, Renee is with Roman Reigns backstage, and Renee asked Roman for his reaction to seeing Brock on Miz TV earlier in the night. Roman says, I don't watch the first hour of Raw.
Awesome answer.
He says he doesn't watch Miz TV. Roman says he won't hesitate to make Brock walk out of the WWE, just like how he didn't hesitate to retire The Undertaker. And of course, his crowd boos that.
That is a good little thread from WrestleMania, that he theoretically retired Taker, and now he has a chance to do the same to Brock going into SummerSlam with this stipulation.
We get Nia versus Mickey versus Dana Brooke in our second of two triple threat matches. So Nia here just throws the others around.
Oh, can I just quickly add a note from the entrance?
Yes, please.
Mickey comes out first. Then there's a commercial. Then music plays. And the words Dana Brooke appear on the screen. And I refer again to the child behind me who yelled, quote, No. But then we got an explanation. It wasn't just an anger for seeing Dana Brooke having to wrestle. The child explained to his friend, well, obviously the third one is going to be Nia Jax, so that means no Paige.
Oh, my God.
This child was very upset, thinking that Paige was going to make her triumphant return from neck surgery here in Toronto in this mystery three-way match, and instead, damn Dana Brooke took Paige's spot.
Well, I missed that. I missed that.
Not happy.
Yeah, I missed that innocence. The kid's parents must not allow that kid to go on the internet, is my assumption.
Oh, it was just priceless.
Yeah.
No! It was just so guttural.
Nia,
as was this match.
Yeah, Nia just throws the others around. I sense a good reaction to her. With all the physicality.
That's her gimmick now. She just legit tosses people and throws them around.
Well, they were definitely playing up the viciousness from that Bayley attack that legitimately injured Bayley. Big clothesline wipes out Dana Brooke. By the way, Alexa was out here for this too, but she really did not do anything of note here. Dana tries to dive on Nia's back, but she falls. Nia delivers a big leg drop onto Dana for the win. Sasha versus Nia next week.
So what do you feel is going to be the SummerSlam match?
I think it's got to be Sasha. First of all, it's a real blessing in disguise because, Sasha didn't even... They had a screwy finish at the end of their match last month. So I feel like they should follow up on that. I don't see Alexa versus Nia. So I see Sasha versus Alexa, possibly with a stipulation because this is their second match.
So you mean this is a blessing in disguise?
Yeah, I guess so. 205 Live tomorrow, I get to see Rich Swann versus TJP. So,
dude, this is what TV has been building to this has been the friendly competition for a month, and you get to see it live.
They fucking sat down and played video games together to set this up.
Oh,
I have to see.
Wouldn't that be awesome if they just had a video game match on the big screen on the Titantron?
Dude, I'd be way more interested in that. If they just
seated in the ring as they play.
They came out with a wireless controller and on the Titantron they're playing as their own creative wrestler versions. I would love that. Shattered Dreams Productions. We get Goldust in the back doing another one of these segments. This time he quotes The Graduate. He says that he can't wait to share his next masterpiece. He says he'll be watching very closely at SummerSlam to find his next hero, villain, or perhaps a new starlet. And so he's teasing a brand new storyline that should begin at SummerSlam. And Booker, on commentary afterwards, says that he's been talking to Goldust, and Goldust assures him that this will be his greatest masterpiece yet.
Oh, who could it be?
Who could it be? He really tried to hint that it could be a new female that will be accompanying him.
Dana?
God. Well, I don't know if that kid will be any happier.
Emma could work. Emma needs something.
Yeah, that's true. Angle is with Big Cass backstage, and Big Cass wants the big show at SummerSlam, but only if Enzo is nowhere to be found, not even in the state. So Angle sarcastically suggests putting Enzo in a shark cage. And Cass says, yes, that's great.
We sell those.
Do they still?
Mattel. They had those line of the shark cages. I'm sure you can still buy them. I'm sure they're going to remind us over the next 2 weeks that you can buy them.
Yeah, they did the Punjabi prison, and now they got to sell some shark cages too. So Angle says he hopes Enzo isn't afraid of heights, and that looks to be the match at SummerSlam. Cass versus Show, Enzo in a shark cage.
Great.
Last man standing in our main event, Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. The crowd is very hot for this entire thing. Some specific spots to highlight. Feel free to jump in anytime, John. So they start fighting with the steel steps, and Roman just drops these steel steps right onto Strowman on the ground. He does this 2 times. Really insane how much punishment both men can take here. Superman punch is blocked twice by Strowman, who delivers his over-the-shoulder face buster for a near count. Strowman lifts Reigns, and Roman delivers a Superman punch. Spear is stopped by a running dropkick from Strowman. Roman brings out a table. He struggles to lift Braun Strowman up into a fireman's carry, but does so, and then Samoan drops him through a table for another near count. Both men now brought to the floor. Reigns runs towards Strowman, and Strowman just launches one of those big black office chairs at Reigns. It was so simple, but such an awesome spot, and only something you can do with these big physical guys like a Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns.
I have to imagine someone saw the Okada Evil match, because this was verbatim the same spot with Evil throwing a one of those non-folding chairs right at Okada as he sprinted at him on the floor. And this got a tremendous reaction live.
Yeah, as Sebastian Schwab and Sami Callihan would say, this was a very GIF-able spot.
GIF-able or GIF-able?
I'm on the GIF side. You're not convincing me otherwise.
All right.
They brawl to the ramp. Strowman rams Roman into the LED boards for near counts. So Strowman clears the announce table and teases a spot there, but Roman fights him off. Roman charges and gets caught with a boot. So they're both down. Roman is at the top of the entrance ramp. Strowman is at the bottom. Roman gets up, charges, runs down the ramp, and catches Strowman with a very high-impact spear. The count begins for Strowman, and Roman is resting at the barricade. But out comes Samoa Joe from within the crowd, who chokes out Roman Reigns. Notable that Roman actually started to tap here, and then he actually goes to sleep. The crowd chants, "Thank you, Joe." The ref begins his count with both men down, and Braun...
Which was a source of controversy, because Braun was down this entire time.
Yeah, kind of true. If somebody else goes down, does the count restart? It's not like he can count two counts concurrently, though. What does he do? Like 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 7. You can't. That's tough. Math is hard. So Braun Strowman.
Maybe they should have like electrical charges so that they can sync with the screen and have a video counter.
Maybe they should wear like a little kind of vest like you wear at like laser tag.
Yeah.
You ever do that? Like,
I did. I used to do laser tag all the time.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
That's fun. Actually, somebody
laser tag and canoeing.
Somebody once gave us a listener who used to run a Laser Quest. It actually gave us passes. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Can we still use those?
They're actually expired, but he's assured me that they might still honor them. So you and I laser tag. I'm down for that.
All right.
Braun Strowman ends up getting up before Roman Reigns, and so Braun Strowman wins this match. How did this come across live?
Really good. This was a really good main event between these two. I think they have very good chemistry together, a very hard-hitting match, and yeah, I thought both guys worked hard. There was one spot in the match where it looked like Braun's knee temporarily buckled, but he got up afterwards and was moving on it, so it couldn't have been too bad, but there was a moment where it just looked like his knee just like clicked or something. Yeah, Joe coming through the crowd got a tremendous reaction. I thought there was going to be the possibility of Joe choking out Reigns, and he would just stand tall over both men, who would just get counted out, and you wouldn't even get a winner out of this. But they did have Braun win, and then afterwards, Braun got on the mic and again called Roman Reigns a puppy. He's going to leave SummerSlam as a champion, and then he just thrust his arms in the air and did Braun-like poses, and the audience took to him like a star. He really felt like a big deal to this crowd, and he's a guy that his presence live is very strong, and I feel more and more this guy understands his character with each passing week and doing these big matches that he's doing on a pretty frequent basis.
Then they've really designed some great spots for him to take advantage of his strength and I guess his durability, you know, doing things like flipping over ambulances or throwing chairs at guys and taking those stair shots, I think will really endear him and already has endeared him to this crowd. So I'm with you. I really enjoyed this match. I thought this was a great last man standing match that was very physical and very entertaining. This crowd was hot for it the entire time. And Oh man, I was going to say something else.
They also mentioned at the show that they're returning to Toronto for a house show on Saturday, December 30th at the Rico, which is also the same night as the UFC's year-end pay-per-view for those in Toronto.
Do you think like they were taking a gamble here by having these guys work such a physical match 2 weeks before SummerSlam?
Yeah, this was a very physical match, and there was a lot that could have gone wrong with some of the stuff that they were attempting. But they wanted to have a big match here on Raw. Also worth noting, as we've been discussing, was the fact this was not put in the second hour, and instead they attempted to hold the audience right until the end, and this was the final 25 minutes or so of the show, as opposed to the pattern we had seen emerging.
What do you think is do you think there's any meaning behind that?
No, last week was a really good number. They ended up doing their best number since April last week and kept all 3 hours above 3 million viewers. So maybe it's a renewed confidence that they can maintain a strong audience in the third hour. I still feel there's going to be that drop from the second to third hour, even with this in the main event position.
But I shudder to think how lukewarm of a reaction Dean versus Cesaro would have been had this taken place at the top of the second hour rather than.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. They didn't have that match that was going to top. You would feel comfortable closing the show with a 20-minute match with Cesaro and Dean Ambrose. Also notable was no Hardys on the show. Did they mention them in any way? Did they talk about the three-way tag for SummerSlam at all?
No, not that I caught, but I might have missed it.
Because you have to figure the Hardys are part of SummerSlam, and I guess you can just do Gallows and Anderson, but that's not a big match.
Not at
for
all.
SummerSlam.
At this point, though, I mean, I don't know what your plans are, but if you are teasing Rollins versus Rollins and Ambrose for a tag team title shot and possibly winning the belts, I mean, is there even a point in trying to promote a number one contender?
Maybe not, because I would almost venture to guess that the plan was to go with the Revival to come out as those number one contenders, and the Hardys continue with wherever they're going next, and Anderson and Gallows were just there to be a team in that three-way. So I think the Revival, with Scott Dawson's injury, it's unfortunate. Those guys just have not been able to get any kind of a break since their call-ups, with both guys going through injuries now. But yeah, worth noting the fact there were no Hardys on tonight's show in Toronto. So that was Raw. It was, I thought, a good show. Definitely a better third hour this week than last week.
I thought that main event was excellent, and I'll say, yeah, overall, I mean, I felt the rest of Raw was just kind of okay, but that main event really kind of made the whole thing almost seem worthwhile to sit through.
And we've got now 10 matches official for SummerSlam, so it's getting to be a pretty packed card at this point. I wouldn't imagine too many more additions, but there are still some loose ends, as we mentioned, with the Hardys, whether The Miz has a role on this show, and that's pretty much it at this point.
How many hours do we know?
They've only announced that the start time for the actual show is 7 p.m., so it's a question of how long the kickoff show is. I hope the kickoff is just 1 hour. I hope they don't do the WrestleMania format of 2 hours followed by 4. I just think that's a lot to do. I think that's too much for WrestleMania, much less SummerSlam.
All right, let's go to feedback.
All right, we got this up late, so we have a few here. We can start off with Doug from Chicago. Brock opening the show and squashing The Miz and company got my attention out of the gate. My other huge impression is Braun Strowman heaving an executive office chair at Roman Reigns. Braun saw Roman approaching and flung that chair with great velocity. These two have been able to keep it fresh with new twists on the physicality like this. What do you guys think about Enzo shifting to SmackDown and working as Nakamura's hype man? I think it would benefit both guys and allows Enzo to pivot towards focusing on his strong skill set on the mic and improving it. I don't see that connection being made. King of soft style.
They're just such different personalities that I don't necessarily see it being a fit. And I just don't see it. I don't think Nakamura fans would be happy about it. I don't know. I think.
What do you think, though? Okay, not to say I'm like entertaining this idea, but I mean, we all agree Enzo is a great talker. Do you think that whether it's Enzo or somebody else, that Nakamura with somebody like a Gato, which is essentially that's Okada's hype man, that someone in that role could work, and could that be Enzo if he was more of a hype man and less of
could Nakamura use a babyface manager? Is that what you're saying?
I guess is this idea as silly as it sounds?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure it was considered. I'm sure it's still maybe at some point being considered. It takes a particular personality though that I think is likable enough that can speak for Shinsuke Nakamura to match his level of, I think the crowd already really likes him. So you just need somebody to be able to carry that forward, but it has to fit. And because Nakamura is such a unique character, it's kind of very tough. And I would almost...
There's no connection between these two. It would be very manufactured to just suddenly put these guys...
How many people would there be a connection to for a Shinsuke Nakamura?
Yeah, well, I think this would also be taken as comedy, and I think that's the last thing Nakamura needs.
I personally prefer the way they're attempting to push him right now, and that's with kind of just kind of very minimal lines that occasionally hit and maybe occasionally don't, but more I like what they're aiming for, at least, and that's trying to have him kind of speak rarely but effectively.
Long term, I do like the idea of someone being paired with Nakamura. I mean, we remember when Brock came back, and at first it was John Laurinaitis speaking for him, and then they even had Brock talking, and it was not going well for that first month until they made the panic call to Paul Heyman, and that has made all the difference in the world, in my opinion, with Brock. I think had Brock not had Heyman, I question how many years Lesnar would have gotten out of that run.
Definitely. But see, I feel like that one is a bit more natural of a pairing because you have a monster and then the monster's keeper. Nakamura isn't really a monster, and that's not to say I guess you can't pair him with somebody, but I think it just takes a more particular type of manager in order to be effectively paired with him. Well, you shall see. We go to Jeremy, who wants to ask, WWE has been mentioning every now and again New Japan Pro Wrestling. For a few examples, stating AJ and Nakamura holding the IWGP title, and on WWE.com, a story about Kyle O'Reilly. They name-dropped Naito and Liger. So does WWE have a working relationship with New Japan, or do you guys
No.
Or do you guys have an idea as to why they would do it? As we know, Vince is a stickler for words and language on his shows. Just wondering why they never mention Owens holding the ROH title or AJ and Joe being in that other company.
I feel that for one thing, it's a WWE.com story, for one. And I just don't think they have that same kind of belief of New Japan Pro Wrestling and
being competition.
Yeah,
or at least North American competition.
I think they're comfortable with mentioning Japan. I mean, Japan as a whole is mentioned a lot of times, and more so than just simply New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, and I don't look at it as anything prevalent, but there's definitely no working relationship between the two. And to be honest, the more New Japan I think continues with their expansion, I think the even less and less you may hear even subtle references to, even on the website.
Your turn.
Let's go to Michael from Orange County. Thought the Miz TV segment was good for what it was, reminding people that Brock is still a monster. The constant teasing of the Shield seems to get the crowd excited, although I still feel this isn't organic and it's being forced. Main event was great, very entertaining. Looks like Joe is taking the pin if he's getting the upper hand pre-SummerSlam. What with how things are going for Jason Jordan, do you see them ending the experiment and turning him into a heel? I can only imagine the boos moving forward if today is any indication.
Yeah.
I don't feel the experiment is to get this guy over as a squeaky clean babyface. I think that was probably the destination from day one with Jason Jordan, and we're only at week, 3, 4 of this character. So
between how they booked him tonight and also last week having the Miz directly point out him getting booed, I feel like they're not trying to. I feel like part of the experiment is to eventually get him over as a heel. So, I think this is probably working how they wanted to. We got a Jesse from the 6, who was not at OVO Fest tonight, but he was at Raw in Toronto with a lapsed fan and a fan of mostly just Total Divas. The lapsed fan was into Brock Lesnar and Big Show and Strowman throwing an office chair into Roman's face. The Total Divas fan was into Cesaro, Seth, and Dean after I explained their backstory, and Big Show. Alexa got a huge pop the first time she came out, perhaps only second to Brock. The crowd was also into Seth and Dean in the office chair spot. There were several children around us too. Unquestionably, their favorite was Enzo. They all popped huge for him, sang along, and one girl in her Enzo wig completely lost her mind for him. And it's worth noting that they all booed Roman vociferously. The highlight for me was Bray. I never before saw him doing his disappearing gimmick in person. He literally just rolls out of the ring, and you can see him do it clear as day. And then Finn has to sell that he doesn't know where he is like a fucking idiot. The child in front of me helpfully yelled to Finn that Bray was under the ring and that it was dark under there, and I fell on the floor laughing.
All right. Let's Mark from Vaughan. He writes, after Survivor Series weekend was such a big success, do you read anything into the lackluster ticket sales for the Toronto TV tapings this week? It felt like the city was building momentum after that pay-per-view, and the Roadblock special is just a reflection of how cold the SummerSlam build is. I don't know if they were sold out, but they were pretty close to it on Monday night for Raw. So, it looked pretty full on Monday, which is a pretty strong house for them. And I imagine SmackDown, I don't know if they'll have a similar amount on Tuesday. I would imagine a bit less. However, you do have Cena on the show tomorrow night advertised, so they may do very well. So I don't look at these two tapings as disappointing. The Air Canada Centre is a pretty decently sized building, and there was a tiny bit on the 300 level tarped off, which I think was just for logistics more than anything, because it was just hidden in the corner. So, yeah, it was pretty close to capacity on Monday.
Finally, Peter from Toronto, who was also at the show. The good stuff involved Brock and the Miztourage, although I'm not too sure what's going on with Jordan now, but the crowd is not buying into him at all. We were all ready to cheer for Ambrose and Rollins finally being on the same page, but it looks like it will drag out. Reigns and Braun had a great match. Those two always deliver and have fantastic chemistry. And then he asked about the Hardys and whether or not them being away has anything to do with their lawsuit. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. But I don't know the reason for why they were not on the show. It could have been they may not know what the two are doing at SummerSlam now that the Revival are seemingly out of the picture.
Who knows?
All right. That is going to wrap up the show, so I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We will be doing a role reversal on Wednesday for Review of SmackDown, because Wai Ting is going to the Air Canada Centre. He will watch SmackDown Live, followed by 205 Live, and they're also advertising a big 6-man tag dark match featuring Cena, I believe Nakamura, AJ, Kevin Owens. It's like this crazy 6-man tag.
Wow, okay. I'll stick around for that.
Wait, you have a lot of wrestling coming up over the next 24 hours, and then we will chat again on Wednesday. So that's coming up. We've got Review of SmackDown. We will have our final week of G1 shows, which wrap up on Sunday with the finals. And Friday, Review Away is back. And Wai, what a show we are reviewing.
Yes. SummerSlam 1999, a match that you all voted for amongst the list of SummerSlam options on the @Law Radio Twitter feed. And thank you all so much for choosing this show. I must have fallen asleep only, 3 times watching it? So thank you all.
I have no idea how this won the poll. I have no clue.
No.
I guess a lot of people want to hear our thoughts on Jesse Ventura as the special referee for the triple threat match involving Steve Austin, Mick Foley, and Triple H from 1999. Not to mention a Kiss My Ass match, multiple title matches.
A Lion's Den match. Let's not forget that.
Oh, God.
An appearance from Pepper. So
Road Dogg in his casual wear.
I understand why people would choose it. I think people really romanticize this Attitude Era. This is when a lot of people got into wrestling. But boy, I don't think it'll be fun talking about it. It was not fun watching this thing back. So please do at your own risk.
All right. Well, folks, that is going to wrap things up for us. We will be back on Wednesday with a brand new show. You can also download The Law from Sunday night featuring our guest, Filthy Tom Lawler, and we will speak with you later this week at liveaudiowrestling.com.